Hello and welcome to First Minister's Question Times. And as usual, we have Stuart Lockhead, Norrie Stewart, and today we're joined by Jay Adami, and there's myself, of course, Phil Axred. So let's start along at the end. Let's start on the left and keep to the left. Stuart, and what did you make of today?
Well, like all good politicians, I won't answer the question first. I'd like to comment on the fact that it is the 1st of November and it is time for Movember. So the reason why I have a hair on top of my top lip is got to do with that. However, Mr. Stewart here seems to be...
The reason I've lost my beard and tash is because of Halloween.
Okay.
I ripped some facial stuff off.
Yeah, imagine, a razor is easier than waxing.
Well, it wasn't meant to be waxed.
That's a good excuse. Anyway, I'd like to welcome Jay to the Three Men in a Blog, which obviously now tells lies, but it's always a bit of controversy, so it's quite good. Three men and a woman in the blog. Today, we were all looking forward to today's First Minister's Questions because there's been quite a rammy, and it's a very incestuous rammy in Scottish politics. The three main parties are just chopping... is it four? Oh, yes, the Lib Dems. They're just chopping lumps out of each other for no good purpose, talking anally about topics that the man in the Clapham omnibus, or shall we say, the South Gyle bus, doesn't give a toss about.
The 22.
The 22 bus. Doesn't give a monkeys. However, that is what they discussed today. Performance-wise, Joanne Lamont was average. She still seems to have some bit of a shake in her hand. This could be wrong of me to mention that. It could turn out she has some illness. However, I think it's because she's nervous. Plus, she's forever reading a script, and it seems to be somebody else's. The content, we can come to that. Willie Rennie stood up. He's definitely not the blundering fool he was when he first took over as leader. He does carry off a certain gravitas and stuff. He must stand in front of the mirror for quite a while before he comes out in the morning.
His mother probably gave him a good talking to.
Something like that. And then Ruth. Ruth seems to be turning into this bruiser that, as I say, she's trying to get herself a reputation, big enough reputation in Scotland, so she can sit for a constituency in the south of England, like all Tories in Scotland that want to get anywhere in the world.
I don't understand. She's changed that. She was good. She would ask a question, have the answer, and the twist on the answer to try and make Simon look like an idiot. Now, today, she hit every single topic. And there was no weight behind it. So she's moved from being reasonably good to being a waste of space.
No, as I said, she's focused entirely on her career. Nothing to do with what is and isn't good for the people of Scotland, what is or isn't good for any voters that voted for her. What's good for her, I can't even see what she does is good for the Tory party in Scotland.
Yeah, and I think you're wrong on the Tories. It's Labour just as much. The way down to the gravy train to London, get yourself a little career down there.
And what was this all about?
End up importing cheese in the Lords.
What about all this wonderful popularity that these leaders have got? Apparently, the Scottish people, in a very well-respected annual social survey, they trust Joanne Lamont. By 6% of the Scottish population trust her. 5% trust Ruth Davidson and 2% trust Willie Rennie. I forget what the figures are for Alex Salmond, but I suspect they're in the 30s or 40s. But
he's in the 20s, I think 24% sticks in my mind.
But it certainly it strikes a chord.
So what did you think, Jay?
Well, as you guys know, I'm quite a novice to watching First Minister Question Time, because apart from anything else, I'm usually out at work on a Thursday. Quite wonder what the world might make of it when the first 20 minutes are spent, just as you say, pure ranting, ping-ponging, and not discussing anything of any relevance. Certainly that sort of the people on the street could understand, and I think I'll be here to try and represent many of those women who are on the number 25 bus, for instance, in Edinburgh, and you do hear some of their conversations, and I'm sure most of them wouldn't understand an awful lot of what was said today, and I certainly don't see any female role models in either the Tory party or the Labour Party at the minute, so...
Nothing to give you that bit of confidence in it.
Not so far.
So when you're actually looking at it, who out of the... Well, forgetting we Willie, because at 2% nobody trusts him, but out of the other three, who would you say seems to be in charge of their briefing is, more trustworthy, maybe?
I'm not sure about trustworthy. I mean, Alex Salmond is the most articulate. He can recall information really quickly, can't he? And he doesn't necessarily have to refer to his notes. And he's particularly well briefed. So, you know, for the pure presentation, he gets it. But that shouldn't really be what politics are based on. It should be, to me, based on factual substance that people switching can understand.
Yeah, but we get politicians like Tony Blair.
Well, yeah.
You know, these are people who just sell their personality.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, again, it was he said, she said, he said, she said. And that's coming from Salmond as well. But he actually is a lot more confident he does it when, people would say that. A lot of the people at they pick the odd one out of Europe, or the odd one there that says something or other, which is usually what Lamont is doing and the others. But again, we won't know anyway, and nobody. This whole thing of had you had meetings? Well, you can't have meetings because it's not an independent country. It actually starts to grate after a while because you think, let's hope they're going to talk about something reasonable this week, or something about policy. I mean, all we do know with the Labour Party is basically everything they believed in. They now no longer appear to believe it. The free travel, the health service, free care, free tuition, and I think an awful lot of that is just that nastiness, because that was policies their government brought in, but now people associate it with the SNP, and it's a bit like they've stolen our ball. Now I'm going to burst it, and it does great. So we have a look at
the whole thing, though. I mean, every question they're asking on the Labour side and Tory side, the pound. Right. We can go into Sterling Zone as an independent Scotland and there's nothing anybody can do about it. We can choose to have sterling. We can choose to tie ourselves to the dollar.
We can have the groat.
We can tie ourselves to any currency we want in the world. And there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Oh, there's one thing.
There's no legal impediment. That's her first question answered. And she should know that.
What do you think of the Washington Post? Do you think the Labour Party will...
Let me come to that one. She quotes a paper that is so on the ball and up to date, it doesn't even know that the biggest debate at the SNP conference was about staying in NATO. So now, every single Scottish party is in favour of NATO. The opening paragraph of the Washington Post was, if the SNP get into government after independence, they will leave NATO. They then predicated the whole article on that. They made so many mistakes in the article, whoever it is that wrote it should have been fired.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter for it, because it's the Wall Street Journal is the mouthpiece for the neocons, the neoliberal project in America. It was just, and in fact, the main article, if you really look at it, the main article was about the threat to the American empire.
Well, this is the Washington Post, not the Wall Street Journal.
Sorry, the Washington Post. But the article, the theme of the article was that if we end up with an independent social democratic Scotland, that is a threat to the mission of the American empire.
Well, I mean, what they basically said was, Britain is the special relationship. Britain's the only country they can rely on to follow them like a blind puppy.
Poodle.
If Scotland get independence, it will weaken the RUK. Possibility that they're going to lose their seat on the Security Council. Mm-hmm. Possibility that they're not going to be able to afford Trident.
Oh, they won't be able to buy Trident.
Their balance of payments will be 42 billion light, because that goes with Scotland. So their biggest, toughest, most compliant ally is weakened. That's all they're concerned about. Yeah, they want an ally that's as strong as possible.
And that's really what the tone of that article was.
That is that whole bit with America, and I mean, I really object to anything that happens in this country and in Europe has to be done to help the Americans. I mean, they have 12.5 Trident submarines floating about the planet. It didn't stop a group of Saudis taking airline lessons. I mean, on the 11th of September.
I mean, the defence of the Union, as far as Westminster is concerned, is geopolitical. It's got nothing to do with Scotland's contribution or whatever. It's about a seat at the top table.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in Europe. I mean, the European argument oh, Scotland's, going to have to renegotiate, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, if they get their referendum, England will be leaving.
Well, the UK will be leaving before
the European Union.
UK.
There's a bigger risk of us being out of Europe staying in the Union than there is if we get independence.
Well, we had that.
So why are all these parties arguing about this risk to a membership of the EU?
In any case, surely the question whether we stay in Europe long term, if we get an independent Scotland, surely should be decided by the first, or at least an elected government of an independent Scotland. Not decided by a bunch of politicians now, arguing about where the punctuation should be in the question.
The quote from me today from Joanne Lamont was, what's the weather going to be like in 2014? Well, here's a wee surprise for you, Joanne. Nobody sitting in Westminster, nobody sitting in Holyrood has any idea what the weather's going to be like in 2014. Nor do they have any idea about what the balance of payments are going to be, what state Europe's going to be in, whether we can afford Trident. None of these questions can be answered with certainty. And you've got to be a Bernard Biscuit arse to think they can.
What was that? That was a good one. I like that line.
Oh, Bernard Biscuit arse.
Yeah, I've heard that. My mother-in-law used to use that.
I mean, the whole thing is just a lot of crap. Nobody knows where anybody's going to be in 2014, any more than anybody knew in 2007 where we would be in 2008.
I think we'll be further up the Swanee in 2014. Anything else strike you, Jake, at all about the performance, or do you wonder why we sit and watch it every day?
Well, I'm quite envious that you understand it as well as you do, because there's a lot to grab hold of, and there's a lot of misconceptions, and it doesn't matter what media you read, they'll all have some slant to them. They'll all be one extreme or the other.
You read any of the major print media, you watch the BBC, and you'll get a unionist slant.
Oh, hugely.
Watch STV at 10:30 at night. They tend to be a little bit more even-handed. A little bit.
Everything is kind of twisted around as is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, very, very much.
Most people, just read the headline. There's very few people who read the text and the context of something, and then there's very few people who even consider how that's being weighed up and whether it is a balance.
Yeah, because most people just have got their life to get on.
Yeah, you're on the bus, you're reading the metro, you read the headline because you're getting off for the next stop.
That is the design of the metro. The metro is just the headlines from everywhere else.
Exactly.
Don't do it with a Scotsman.
No.
Seriously, the Scotsman will put a headline up that's pro-unionist, anti-independence, and then you read the article and you'll think, that headline has nothing to do with
It's
this
actually
article.
quite a measured article, but it's certain things. Well, one thing which Alex Salmon said today, no, it wasn't Alex Salmon, it was one of the SNP members about the fact that not Ruth Davidson, honestly, I'm losing it. Joanne Lamont, because they all sort of look the same, will not say where she stands on nuclear weapons at all. Well, where does the Labour Party stand on nuclear weapons? Do they want it? And then you had Jackie Bailey. Now she represents the area of Faslane, Coalport, and she's actually for it because it keeps jobs. So she wants to break international law and upgrade it, which is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act, and just for jobs. Now, the amount of money, which you heard Alex Salmon saying, how much is actually spent every year, just from Scotland, 180 odd million. How many jobs, meaningful jobs, could that actually produce? And I'm just really glad that Jackie Bailey wasn't around in 1807 when they wanted to get rid of slavery. You can imagine it with her. Oh, you can't get rid of slavery. My constituents made galleys and chains and whips. They'll put them out and they think, oh no, we'll have to keep
That's
it.
a good line.
I mean, sorry, but let's go on to scores. What would you give? This scores should be interesting. In this. Scores out of 10.
Scores out of 10. We'll start off with start at the bottom. Was Willie Rennie. Willie Rennie, he disappointed me. He came up, he thought he had got a good point by asking some question about the EU again. And I think for choice of topic, 0. But he does get a mark for the way he stood there and he's calm and he doesn't lose the rag. So I'll give him 3. Ruth, bluster, nonsense. She every time she opens her mouth and asks a question, it's a stupid question, because Alex Salmond just comes back and said, but what about the position, or what of the Tory government, or what your party said, or because there is nothing that she's ever asked in the last few weeks of Alex Salmond that isn't shaky ground for herself and her own party. So, 2. Moving up.
Less than willing. Like,
Moving up to Joanne Lamont. Joanne Lamont, I was very disappointed. She opened the proceedings by having a dig at the fact that Alex Salmond wasn't present in the chamber on Tuesday for a debate about Alex Salmond that the Labour Party had called. I think if you were the First Minister and your opponents, every time they had a debate in the chamber about you and you ran to the chamber, you'd look pretty weak and stupid. There are times when you have to look slightly presidential, and you shouldn't always be running to answer questions like that. So that was a bad start for her. And then, apart from that, I'm convinced she reads someone else's speech. She doesn't write it. And until she does something better than that, 5. Mr. Salmond, on his own table, out of 10, was it one of his best days? He was better prepared than usual. I'd give him a 7 because he wasn't. I wish he wouldn't just answer these stupid questions. Why don't just?
He's got to.
They're anal questions. No, but they're anal.
Yeah.
Just why does he have to answer these questions with such anal detail? Why doesn't he just say, well, this is pointless. We're going to have an election after a referendum. At that point, let's discuss policy and what each of the parties will put forward. That's the answer, not the detail now. So I'll give him an 8.
I'm going to start with Willie. Willie Rennie, I'm sorry, at the moment, of the opposition leaders, he's the one that looks most like a grown-up politician. Okay, his question was another one of these questions that nobody can answer with any certainty, so why bother asking him? But, he looks better than both Ruth and Joanne. Ruth, she's gone back. She had it right. She used to ask that short question. We laughed, we chuckled to ourselves, asked the short question, knowing the answer, so a supplementary, she could have another kick out. She's turned into a kind of baby Joanne, because she's not effective anymore. Joanne.
You haven't scored her.
I'm not going to score her. I'm going to score more at the end and shock you. Joanne. I thought she was better this week. Content was garbage. I mean, you can answer the questions if you're up to speed. Okay, she's there to give the public the opportunity to watch her kick out Alex in the head. Unfortunately, she keeps falling on her arse, so she can't reach his head. Just, can't be bothered with her anymore. Alex, I'm going to give him a 6, but he's still in a different league. So he gets 6, Joanne gets 3, Ruth gets 0. Oh, Willie, I'm going to give Willie a 5. Just to encourage him.
For turning up.
Just to encourage him. But, let's stop playing the man, guys, and try and be grown up about a debate.
I see how generous you could be there, Jay.
I don't know where to start. We've got about as much consistency with our scoring here as we have on Strictly Come Dancing, I think. I think I'll stick to a very simplistic form of scoring today, which isn't necessarily on the individuals, because I don't really know them that well. I think overall performance of the whole First Minister's Question Time, given that they only discussed any relevant issues for a third of the programme, I'm going to give the whole thing a 3.3.
Yeah, okay.
I like that.
The whole thing now. Well, I'll start the opposite, and I'll start off with Alex Salmond. I thought he looked a bit rattled today, actually, just the way he was jumping around. But again, he was on top of his form. He you know, it was like he was actually lecturing children. You know, you obviously aren't listening, and he probably was actually the way they act. I'll give him a 7. Then drop down to Willie. Willie actually, I kept looking to see if he had the school cap in front of him, because that's what he reminds me of a schoolboy, the way he stands. Because this is his well-behaved mode, rather than when he used to do his little angry mode.
Yeah.
Now this is his well-behaved, I'm just a nice little schoolboy. And he asked the question that, I'm sorry, as a political leader, he knows that nobody can possibly answer until after the referendum, and if it's positive. So, just for turning up. I mean, I'd put him in detention if I could, but you can't. So I'll give him a 3. Joanne, oh dear. I mean, being so stupid as to actually come up with the Washington Post when everybody did take one look at it and it was all full of rubbish. They'd all got all their facts wrong. But then, well, as Jackie Bailey, one of our front bench people as well there, one of the opposition front bench, brought up the evening news. So, well, it's the same with the Washington Post, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But being a loyal Labour Party member, I'll give her 5. And Ruth, well, she's a Tory, so I'll give her nothing.
Oh dear.
So, yeah, well, got to be consistent, you know.
Anybody add the scores up this week? Well, maybe they'll have to start doing that in future.
Well, I should imagine.
I like
diluting
your
them.
tact. I mean, I do like your tact. I think we should do that.
I know we're all score.
Question time, was it a well-spent half hour?
That's, I think, the issue.
And I think I noticed that I was listening when you said a third of the time, and I think you could be right. When you get a constituency question like Tavish Scott asking about a possible strike affecting the ferries to the Northern Isles, and the importance of that to the Northern Isles, you know, that's a very relevant question.
Rather bouncing egos. Look at me. I'll be a better ego. I'll be better than you, and I hate you. And that's what it is with the lead. I hate. And as I said before, it's my ball, and I'm going to burst it. And thank you very much.
It's nice the ball actually exists now, because obviously the EU legal advice ball didn't exist, and they were chasing that for long enough.
Well, again, it's like going into a cereal aisle. Is when you get. I mean, it's all lawyers, isn't it? So, and it doesn't matter how many lawyers you ask. Each one will give you a different question. The one thing they'll all give you that's consistent. A very large bill.
Yeah.
Cool. So, thank you very much, folks, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Goodbye.
Ciao.